Hi, this is Vicki with craftingforfun.blogspot.com. Today I want to show you how I made this adorable little candy bar treat holder. This treat holder is just over 4 inches in length and just over 1 inch by 1 inch in measurements. On the inside it opens up and is just large enough to hold a standard size candy bar. It's really economical to make because it only uses a 6 inch by 6 inch piece of cardstock, and it closes without any adhesive on the end, so it can be easily opened and reclosed many times. As I said, you'll need a 6 inch by 6 inch piece of cardstock to make this project. Heavyweight cardstock does seem to work better than lightweight cardstock. And I'm going to show you today, the sample that I showed you has a raised white dot on it, but I found that raised white dot pattern made it very difficult to see the score lines on the video, so today I'm using a solid color cardstock just for demonstration purposes. In addition, you'll need scraps of white cardstock and colored cardstock to embellish your project, along with a coordinating ribbon. And in addition to that, you'll need some tools, which I'll be talking about throughout the video. So let me gather the supplies I need and we'll get started. In addition to the paper, supplies, and ribbon, you'll also need some tools. You'll need an envelope punch board. Today I'm using the Stampin' Up! Punch board, and you'll also need a paper cutter, and I'll be using the Stampin' Up! Paper cutter. And then in order to embellish my project, I used a couple of punches. But you can use whatever you want to embellish your project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 6 by 6 piece of cardstock and I'm going to put it inside of my envelope punch board, and I'm going to line the left hand edge up with the 1 1/4 mark, and I'm going to punch. Oops, and let me pull out my included bone folder. I'm going to punch, and then I'm going to score along the score line. And then I'm going to move this over to 2 3/4, so the left hand edge is lined up with the 2 3/4 mark, and again I'm going to punch and I'm going to score. Then I'm going to turn this around to the opposite side, and I'm going to repeat the same process. I'm going to line it up with 1 1/4, punch and score, and then 2 3/4, punch and score. Now for the 2 remaining sides, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to line the score lines up with this little score guide. And when I have it lined up, I'm going to punch and score across my project. I'm going to move it over to the next score line and do the same thing. Punch and score. Then I'm going to turn it to the opposite side and do the same thing. Line this thing up with the score line. Punch and score. Punch and score. And that's all I'll need my scoring tool for, and this is all of the waste that we have from the entire project. So I'm going to set that aside. Now you'll need your paper trimmer. I have done something unusual with my paper trimmer. I'm going to be, let me see if I can get the whole thing in view. I can't get the whole paper trimmer. So this is the bottom edge, the one closest to me, and it has the ruler guide on it. And then what I've done is I have taken a piece of Post-it tape, and it comes on a roll, but a standard Post-it note would work as well. And I have lined that up along the 2 3/4 line, because that's the scoring, that's the mark I'm going to want to use, and I'll explain more about that here in just a second. So I'm going to take my project that I've already punched, and these points here, I'm going to line the bottom up with 2 3/4, and I'm going to line the top point, I'll move this down so you can see it, the top point up with 2 3/4 again. And so now you see why I have the Post-it note there. So I'm going to line both of those up with 2 3/4. Then I'm going to close down the arm, and I'm going to cut off the excess. So I'll have a piece like this. Then I'm going to take my project and turn it around, and I'm going to do the same thing. 2 3/4 at the bottom and 2 3/4 at the top. Close the arm and remove that piece. And that is all of the cutting that I will need to do, so I can set my tools aside. Let me grab my scissors and I'll show you how to finish this project. Okay, so now I have my project scored, and I need to do a little trimming. So I'm going to move this closer so hopefully you can see. There are score lines here and here on either side of this little pointed piece. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut inward to the first intersecting score line. And I actually like to cut on both sides of that score line and remove just a little sliver. This gives me a little extra room to wiggle when I'm trying to close that box and makes for a better fit. Then I'm going to do that on the other side as well. So I've got my little tabs here, and then the long piece with the pointed end. And I'm going to turn my project around, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to cut inward to the first intersecting score line, cut a little extra off, and the same thing on this side. And that is all that I have to do as far as cutting goes. So I have something that looks like this. So I'm going to go ahead and fold along all of my score lines. And again, I am demonstrating with a solid color cardstock just to make it easier for you to see. This is a much cuter project when you use a printed cardstock. Unfortunately, that is also more difficult for you to see the details. So now I'm ready to assemble my box. I'm going to take one of my flaps and I'm going to apply adhesive on the inside of the project very close to the edge. And for this demonstration purpose I am going to use snail, but if I were doing this to give to someone I would actually use sticky strip. And then when I put the box together, I take it and I fold it around, and I'm moving this closer to the camera so you can see, and I go just about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of that box. Make sure that this line here across the top and bottom is straight. Stick my fingers inside of the box and just burnish everything down, and that way I get a nice square box. I flip those little end pieces in, flip the other end tab in, and if it's a tight fit you can trim it a little bit, but in that case it fit fine. And then I would fill up my box and fit the other end in, and there I have my perfect little box. Now you'll want to decorate your box, and what I did to decorate my box was I actually used the stamp set called Easter Blooms, and I stamped this little sentiment that says "Sending Springtime Smiles." I stamped it using black ink on a piece of scrap cardstock, and I'm going to use my Stampin' Up! Large Oval Punch, and I'm just going to punch it out. I'm going to set that aside, and then I have a piece of Pool Party cardstock, just a scrap again, and I'm going to use the Scallop Oval Punch, and I'm just going to punch out one scalloped oval, and I'm going to layer these together, and I'm just going to use snail on the back of this. Now to actually attach this, oops, that is not straight at all. Now to attach this to the box, I would actually turn it over and put a pop dot on the back, and then I would take, pardon me, a piece of ribbon, tie it around my box, and I would just tie a bow and then layer my little sentiment stamp on there, and that's all I did. Here's my original again. A very simple, quick, easy project. I needed a lot of table favors, and so I decided to make this for an upcoming event. It's a really cute, quick, inexpensive way to give a small gift. This box works great for a standard candy bar, but I can also think of lots of other treats that could go inside. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you have any questions, please just send me an email at craftingforfun@gmail.com. Thank you.